Listen closer. Do you hear that? Who are you?
Hello everyone, I am Naim and welcome to the very first episode of Thursday Terror here on Apocalypse Signal. Have you ever wondered why we suddenly look over our shoulders when we are alone? It's because our instincts know what our eyes refuse to admit. The veil between our world and the other is much thinner than we think. Tonight's story is proof of that. I have always said that the most terrifying stories are the ones told by people just like you. The ones who are simply living their lives until the unexplained walk through their front door. One of our listeners, Sarea, just sent us a recording of a dark memory from the heart of Pakistan. She wanted to share a story about the time she crossed paths with a spirit she couldn't explain. A force tied to a simple piece of jewelry. What you are about to hear is a raw, unscripted truth. So now, sit in a quiet room and turn the lights off. This is Sarea's story, The Magical Anklet.
Hello, Naim, and hello, everyone listening. My name is Sarea, and I hope you all are doing well. I'm currently living in Lahore, Pakistan, where I'm completing my doctor's degree at the University of Lahore. There have been several events in my life that I simply cannot explain. They may not be the most terrifying tales ever told, but they are deeply strange incidents that defy logic. The story I want to share with you today might seem small on the surface, but it is one that has stayed with me. I hope you will enjoy it. It all began in 2013, when I was in the 8th grade. It started with a vivid dream. I was walking alone in a beautiful, sprawling garden, when suddenly a sweet fragrance began to fill the air. The scent was intoxicating, so beautiful that it felt like it came from another world, a smell that does not exist here on earth. In the dream, I searched desperately for the source of the unearthly aroma. Suddenly, a figure appeared and offered me a sweet. It looked perfect, round and pure white. I immediately put it in my mouth. But then, the memory ends. Who gave it to me? What happened next? I don't remember anything. I was woken up by my mother's voice calling me. But as I climbed out of bed, I froze. That smell, that sweet, otherworldly smell from my dream, was actually in my room. I touched my face, my cheeks, forehead, eyes, and nose were ice cold. Even my scalp beneath my long hair felt frozen. It was strange, but I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination lingering after my sleep. Time passed without incident. Because I excelled in my studies, my parents eventually enrolled me at a prestigious college in Islamabad, and I moved to a hostel there. Since my uncle lived in the city, they became my local guardians. I would often visit them on Fridays, which is the weekend holiday here in Pakistan, unlike the Sunday weekends in the West. One of these visits, I was staying at their apartment. The building was bustling with several variety shops located right on the ground floor. That afternoon, my aunt asked me, "Saria, can you go downstairs and buy a few things for me?" I went downstairs immediately. While shopping, I noticed a store set apart from the others, isolated in a corner. It felt distant. As I approached, my eyes locked onto a glass jar on the counter. Inside were the same exact round white sweets from my dream. Inside, a man sat quietly surrounded by his goods. He wore a very simple attire. I entered and tried to glance at him out of the corner of my eyes without being obvious, but I realized he was already looking at me. I tried to ignore it. I found a beautiful anklet, a pile that I really liked, and bought it immediately. As I was turning to leave, the shopkeeper called out to me. "I give these sweets to everyone who visit my shop," he said. He handed me 2 pieces of that white round sweet. Surprised, I took them. As I walked away, I glanced back and saw him staring at me. His gaze was piercing, as if he was looking right through my soul. And there it was again, that unearthly sweet scent wafting from the shop. A strange fear gripped me, and I hurried home. I ate the sweets on the way back, and slowly the fear faded. But I became more obsessed with that anklet. I wore it constantly. At night, I would take it off and place it under my pillow, then put it back on the moment I woke up. A few days later, I returned to my hostel in Islamabad. Sometime later, I had another dream. I was sitting in a completely empty room. 2 women entered, covered head to toe in black burqas, their face hidden by niqabs. They sat next to me. I looked at them in silence. Suddenly, one of them stood up and draped a bright red burqa over her black one and walked out of the room. The other woman stayed silent, weeping as if she had lost a part of herself. I was jolted awake by a friend's call. The moment I woke up, that familiar scent hit me. I touched my neck. The top of my throat was ice cold. The dream played over and over in my mind, but I didn't tell anyone. The next day was a holiday, so I went out with my cousins. As we were walking near the road, I froze. Across the street were the 2 women in black burqas, standing exactly like the one in my dream. They began to cross the road towards me. I felt a sick discomfort in my stomach. I just stared. Suddenly, a truck came out of nowhere. It ran over one of the women. In an instant, the road was covered in bright red blood, just like that red burqa in my nightmare. I held my breath, unable to look away, until my cousin dragged me from the scene. I returned to the hostel, but I was traumatized. The dream and the reality had merged. I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence, but I just couldn't shake the feeling. Soon after college broke for summer vacations and I returned home to Lahore. We had a neighbor, a little boy named Hasib, about 5 or 6 years old. One afternoon, I had a dream about him. Hasib was sitting up on a high branch of a mango tree next to his house, dangling his legs. I was standing under the tree, begging him to come down, but he wouldn't listen. He just looked down at me and laughed. But it wasn't a child's laugh. It made my blood run cold. Suddenly, I saw a pair of invisible hands push him. He fell. I woke up to my mother calling my name. As I wiped the sleep from my eyes, that familiar, unearthly, sweet smell filled my room again. True terror set in. I remembered that woman in the red burqa, and I realized what was happening. I kept asking myself, is it happening again? 3 days passed in agonizing silence. I began to hope I was just overthinking, that it was just a nightmare. But on the 4th day, tragedy struck. My brother ran to me, breathless, and said that Hasib had fallen from the mango tree and died. My mother and I rushed to their house. We found his mother sitting under the same mango tree, clutching his lifeless body and wailing. I looked at him. His neck was twisted in an unnatural angle. I stared wide-eyed, unable to look away, and that cold, demonic laughter from my dream rang in my ears. I couldn't bear it. We stayed with the grieving family all day, but I never went near that body again. I was terrifying myself. Was this a coincidence, or was there a darker mystery behind it? I felt like I was going insane, yet I told no one. Soon my vacation ended and I returned to Islamabad for a few days. Life returning to normal, and I managed to persevere away. But then, the nightmare returned. In this dream, I saw a terrible sight. A baby, no more than 3 or 4 months old, lying dead in the middle of a road. The child was wrapped in white shroud, its face completely pale. I woke to the sound of the azan calling for prayer from the nearby mosque. But as the holy sound filled the air, that sickening, sweet smell filled my nose. The top of my head felt frozen, as if an icy hand were resting there. I was paralyzed with fear. Was I having premonitions? Was I seeing death before it happened? 3 or 4 days passed. It was Friday, and I was driving home with my cousin. Suddenly, in front of us, I noticed a couple on a motorbike. They were arguing fearlessly, shouting over the noise of the traffic. In the woman's arm was a baby, maybe 3 or 4 months old, wrapped in white towel, exactly like the shroud in my dream. The image from my nightmare flashed before my eyes, and I stared at the child, breathless. Suddenly, we hit a traffic jam. The motorbike stopped right in front of our car. The couple still fighting. In her anger and carelessness, the woman was holding the baby loosely with just one hand. The child was dangling dangerously, inches away from falling onto the hard, unforgiving asphalt. And then, in the rearview mirror, I saw a large black truck behind us, and it started to move forward. I didn't think. I threw the car door open and jumped out. My cousin shouted, asking where I was going, but I didn't answer. I sprinted towards the motorbike. The baby was slipping. I lunged forward and snatched the child into my arms just as he fell. A split second later, the truck roared past, its massive tires crushing the exact spot where the boy had been. My sudden dash into the road caused a small traffic jam, horns bawling around us. I looked down at the baby in my arms. It was him, the exact same child from my dreams. I stood there in the middle of the road, trembling uncontrollably. The parents and bystanders were shouting at me, confused, angry, or grateful. I couldn't tell, but all I could hear a word. All I could think was, "It's happening. It's real." I returned to the hostel, but this time, the fear didn't fade. I couldn't forget what I had seen. A week later, I realized my favorite anklet, the one I had bought from the strange shop, was missing. I searched everywhere, but it was gone. I was upset, but I let it go. A few days later, a friend of mine came to my room. She looked pale and nervous. "Sarea," she said, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" I asked. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I stole your anklet." I was surprised. Why would she steal it? And why confess now? "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. She started shaking, tears welling in her eyes. "Please forgive me. I'll never do it again." I was caught off guard by her fear. "Don't cry," I said gently. "I don't mind, honestly. If you like it that much, you can keep it." But she refused. I looked at her closely and realized something was wrong. She wasn't just guilty. She was terrified. I pressed her, forcing her to tell me the truth. Finally, she broke down. What she told me turned my blood to ice. She said from the moment she stole the anklet, she had fallen violently ill, and then came the nightmare. She dreamt she was standing alone in a dark, empty field. Suddenly, a booming demonic voice spoke from behind her. "Return the stolen thing to its owners. If you don't return what is hers, you will suffer. I will kill you." She continued, her voice trembling. I tried to turn around to see who spoke, but suddenly, a hand grabbed my throat. It lifted me into the air and threw me violently to the ground. I hit the floor hard. I tried to get back up, but something slapped me hard, right in the middle of my back. I screamed in pain, and then I woke up. She looked at me with wide eyes. "Since this morning, my neck and back have been hurting. When I took the shower, I looked in the mirror. There was a black bruise on my neck and on my back. There's a massive handprint, 5 huge fingers." She pulled down her collar to show me. The dark mark was there. I realized she was terrified, and she had come down to return the cursed object. I took the anklet back silently. Without a word in sight, my mind was racing. What is happening to me? Time passed, our vacations arrived, and I returned to Islamabad. As soon as I got home, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I told my mother everything. A day later, she took me to see a respected imam. I re-encountered the entire story to him, from the very first dream of the sweet shop to the terrifying attack on my friend. He listened in silence, then asked to see the anklet. He took it in his hands, examined it closely, and carried it to the next room. He returned 30 minutes later, holding the anklet. He looked at me solemnly and said, "There are 7 cursed objects in this world, designed for 7 specific people. They take many forms: a ring, a coin, a chain, and this anklet." He continued, "The 7 chosen to hold these items are granted heavy burden. They receive warnings of coming tragedies. They see death before it happens, so that it might prevent it. But these objects are fickle. They do not stay with one person for too long. To ensure this work is done, 7 powerful jinn are bounded to these objects. They are like guardians and do not wish to harm humans." His expression darkened slightly. However, they are fiercely protective. The jinn attached to this anklet was enraged when your friend stole it. It punished her to ensure the object returned to its rightful path. The imam then offered me a choice. "If you wish to be free from this burden, I must wrap this anklet in silk cloth, recite specific prayers over it, and cast it into a river at the time of Fajr, the dawn prayer. Only then will the link be broken." The very next morning, while it was still dark, my parents and the imam drove me to a river 20 kilometers from our home. The imam wrapped the anklet in silk cloth. Just moments before the Fajr call to prayer broke the silence of dawn, he recited a special prayer and casted it into the dark water. In that exact second, the air around us changed. That strange, unearthly, sweet fragrance exploded around us, heavy and thick. The imam looked at me with a serious expression and warned me to never speak of these specific rituals to anyone again. We returned home exhausted. I fell into a deep sleep, but it wasn't a normal sleep. I dreamt that someone was sitting on the edge of my bed. I felt a hand, gentle but impossibly cold, stroking my head. It moved to my neck, brushed over my lips, touched my nose, and rested on my forehead before soothing down the entire length of my hair. My eyes snapped open. The room was freezing. The air was thick and that overpowering sweetness. I looked towards the door and saw a tall, shadowy figure slowly drifting out of my room. I reached up to my throat. It was cold as ice. Moments later, the adhan for Fajr began. I woke up my mother and she confirmed it. She could smell the sweetness too. After that day, the vision stopped, but the mystery remained. On my next holiday, I went back to my uncle's house. In Islamabad, I went straight to the ground floor to find the variety shop. But it wasn't there. I walked up and down the street, confused. I asked the neighbors' shopkeepers about the man with the simple clothes and the sweet smell. But they all looked at me like I was crazy. They swore there had never been a shop like that in the building. The questions still haunt me. Which shop did I enter? Who was the man who fed me? And where did it all go? To this day, I still have a strange feeling. Sometimes late at night, I feel a presence in my room, watching me. I know I'm not alone. These are the strange things that happen to me. Thank you, everyone. Stay well and please pray for me. And if this email is selected, please let me know.
Oh, that was the magical anklet. A chilling reminder that horror doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes it's a gift chosen by the entity. Thank you, Sarea, for sharing your journey from the streets of Islamabad to the quiet rooms of Lahore. Your story reminds us that the line between a dream and a nightmare is way more thinner than we think. Now, to our listeners, if you ever feel a force you can't explain, the Thursday Terror is open for you. Send your stories to our email, and you could be the voice we hear in our next episode. So, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will never miss any episodes of our channel. And we will continue tuning the nightmares as your warning. Until, stay safe, stay haunted, and stay tuned to the apocalypse. Good night.